Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everyone, and this week, because we just celebrated Best Friends Day on Tuesday, June 8th, I decided to put together a little selection of film recommendations all about friendships, especially friendships between duos or really close-knit friendships between groups of people. And let me tell you, I found a couple of gems in this set of movies that I'd never heard of, I'd never watched, obviously, but I absolutely fell in love with them. They did such an amazing job of sort of exploring the intricacies of bonds between people and how, every relationship is going to be completely unique to that particular duo. And they were just really, really excellent movies. And I'm so excited to share them with you. As always, all of these recommendations are available completely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. They come available on 3 of our video services, which are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy, though this week I've only got recommendations from Hoopla Digital and Canopy because I just found so many on both of those services, and I just didn't want to make this video any longer than it already is going to end up being, of course. So without any further ado, I'm going to quickly dive right into these recommendations, and I hope that you find something that you're really interested in. Okay, my first recommendations all come from our Hoopla digital service, and the first of those is for the film Carrington. Now, Carrington is one of those movies I saw years and years ago, and I still remember from the get-go being absolutely enthralled by the performances. The 2 main characters are played by Emma Thompson and Jonathan Pryce, and good grief, are they absolutely phenomenal in those roles. I mean, they're just total magic on screen. So the film tells the story of the true life relationship between English artist Dora Carrington and author Lytton Strachey. And it's one of those thoroughly beautiful but also rather tragic tales, and it just is sort of perfect film fodder, I guess. I know after I first watched the movie, I definitely went back and I read stories and books and articles about both of these figures, and they're just, in real life, as complex and layered as they make them seem in the film. So it's not one of those movies that really embellishes stuff. They had fascinating lives. Now, for the time period, which would have been between the First World War and the early 1930s, this film covers tons of themes that I just did not expect. Because like I said, I didn't know anything about either Carrington or Strachey prior to this movie. Now, their relationship was thoroughly unconventional, and the film does bring up questions of like, what is platonic love? What is romantic love? Where are those boundaries? And, what does it mean to a duo that doesn't care about labels in the first place, but that are living in a world that very much does? Not that we don't live in a world where those things are concerns now, but like obviously back in the early 1900s, that was definitely the optics of the situation were going to be very, very different. So these 2 were breaking taboos all over the place. They weren't shy and retiring about it either, and they were just trying to live their lives, and it's just really, really fascinating. And when you see all of the different antics that go on, like the different relationships that they had with other people, it's like a soap opera, except a lot of these things really happened, and it's just really, really interesting. But at the heart of it, it still is this relationship between the 2, this unbreakable friendship. And it's just this movie full of yearning and longing, and I loved that about it. Every single scene has that sort of pervasive wistfulness about it. Um, Wistfulness in regard to wishing the world were different and that things between them could be different. And I don't know, that sort of melancholy vibe really works in this movie, and it makes you sink into the story so much more, especially knowing how both of their lives turn out. So if you're looking for something that's deeply emotional, that is dramatic, that is also kind of funny in places, that really explores taboos, that at the heart is about two very real, very wistful human beings, check out Carrington. I'm serious when I say that it is one of those films that has stayed with me for almost, well, probably more than a decade at this point. So yes, check out Carrington. It is absolutely amazing. My next recommendation from Hoopla is another oldie but goodie, one that is constantly on those best films, BFI, AFI, all of the lists of movies that everyone needs to watch, and that is Four Weddings and a Funeral. I love this film. Uh, and not even just because I remember it so fondly from when it was originally super popular, but I've always really loved the weird, quirky relationship and friendship between the main characters. They are so both realistic and over the top at the same time. They're archetypes, but like real archetypes, archetypes that you see in your daily life. And the friendships between these people are what make this movie so magical, because at no point does it ever feel like false. You can believe that these people would form bonds, that these people would want to be around one another. Whether you have the rather shy, reserved, prissy isn't precisely the word, but kind of English guy played by Hugh Grant in his most Hugh Grant role of all Hugh Grant role times. Whether you're talking about the boisterous, gregarious, over the top, funny, sort of elder statesman of the group, played by Simon Callow, who is always amazing, is just a phenomenal character actor. You have the shyer, quieter member of the group played by John Hannah. You have like the very sort of prissy, uptight character played by Kristen Scott Thomas. I mean, the whole group is so mismatched but perfectly matched at the same time. And that's sort of what the magic of Four Weddings and a Funeral is. And then the circumstances that happen within the film as well. You have a lot of sort of situational comedy going on. There's a little bit of slapstick going on. There's a whole lot of really fabulous verbal comedy, like very British, very wordy, talky humor. It is very strong within this film, especially when a verbally challenged priest gets involved in one of the weddings. That's like comedy gold, and it's in all of those funniest scenes ever kind of compilations. But it also has a lot of heart. You have threads of romance throughout. You have little bits of everyday tragedy, and then you even have like bigger tragedy going on, like when we're talking about the funeral of the Four Weddings and a Funeral. So you have like these daily pieces of regular life thrown into this sort of easy breezy comedy, and I love that feeling, the whole combination of slice of life with situational comedy and everything all together. It's a great movie. If you're looking for something that's guaranteed to make you laugh, if you're looking for something with light romance, if you're looking for something that really will make you miss your close friends, especially if you're separated, check out Four Weddings and a Funeral if you haven't seen it before. They did recently make like a series version that they put on Hulu, which I was not a huge fan of. I just didn't think the magic was there, the way that the magic is in with the film. But if you watch that and were kind of like, I don't get it, why was this so highly anticipated? You definitely need to watch the movie because that's why it was so highly anticipated. So my last recommendation from Hoopla is not for a film, but actually for a series, at least season 1 of a series, and that is the sitcom Hot in Cleveland. Hot in Cleveland is one of those series that I'd heard about. It stars Valerie Bertinelli, Wendy Malick, and Jane Leeves, who are all fantastic, fantastic sitcom actresses. They've been in shows for years and years. Leaves was in Frasier. She played Daphne. Wendy Malick was, I think, in Just Shoot Me, I want to say. That's where I know her from. She's also the mommy in Emperor's New Groove. That's where one of those other things that I've seen her in. And then Valerie Bertinelli has been in a ton of shows, but I can't even think of them off the top of my head. The main thing I know her from is that she was married to Eddie Van Halen. But she was also in a ton of films and series. So they're all really great actresses. And then you throw into the mix Betty White, and then it's comedy gold. Anything that woman is in is comedy gold. So this rather ridiculous little sitcom follows these 3 close women from LA who end up sort of in a crash landing in Cleveland, of all places. They're on their way to Paris, of all places, and then they end up here in Ohio. And for many, many reasons, I don't want to give these ones away because I do think that that's integral part of the pilot plotting, is they end up deciding to move to Cleveland, and they're introduced to Betty White, and the rest is sitcom history. And it's just so light and fluffy and funny and ridiculous. I mean, it's so over the top in so many places. If you're into realism, this is probably not the show for you. But if you do like sitcom format, like that 30-minute laugh track, easy, light, sort of tongue-in-cheek, self-aware comedy, Hot in Cleveland, man. It's one of those shows that I did not expect to enjoy at all, but really it was a lot of fun, and I will probably continue to watch the other seasons as well. So check out Hot in Cleveland if you're looking for something funny, light, if you like stories about friendships between women, if you like slapstick, if you like sitcom format, this one's definitely one for you. Again, Hot in Cleveland on Hoopla. Okay, I'm going to kick off my Canopy recommendations with my absolute favorite film from all of these picks, and that is the movie Tucked. I had not heard about this movie. I'd not seen the trailers. I just was going through and searching for movies about friendships, and I came across this one, read the synopsis, thought it sounded interesting, watched the trailer, was super interested at that point, and then just fell in love. This movie, I mean, it's hilarious in parts, it's absolutely tragic in others, it's heartwarming, it's moving, it's just incredible. So this is a film about both beginnings and endings. It follows the story of an aging drag queen. He's about 74 or 5, I think he mentions, and he discovers that he only has weeks to live. So from the get-go, you're dealing with terminal illness. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. And as he's approaching the end of his life, he decides that he wants to live the last weeks with just as much verve and go and passion and excitement as he has lived, his whole life. he ends up forming this friendship with a very young drag queen, and they discover, so much about one another in just this very short amount of time. And having those kinds of films that have truncated timelines like that, I think are so affecting and so fast. Every second counts, very much so for real in movies like this, because every minute is like another day in this character's life that you're counting down, and you have to see where things are going to end up. It's I don't know that it was unexpectedly moving. I obviously expected to be moved just from the trailer and the description, but the film stayed with me for a few days afterward. I was definitely like a little bit burnt out of like feeling while watching things. So it's not one that I would recommend if you're just looking for something light, fluffy, silly, that's not going to stay with you, because this one absolutely will. But these two actors put in such amazingly strong performances. You feel the friendship developing. You feel every moment that the two start to understand more and more about one another, what they have in common, the things that they don't have in common, the things that they hope for each other. And that sort of bond is so expansive as the film goes on. You see that sort of care grow and grow, and it's so beautifully sad, because while you're seeing this friendship bloom, you know that an end is coming. And like I said, it just stayed with me for a while. So if you're looking for a movie that's truly beautiful, that will stay with you long after the last scene, that will make you laugh, that will probably make you cry. It made me cry like super hard. I would definitely recommend checking out Tucked. It's a really phenomenal movie. So Tucked on Canopy, highly recommended. My next recommendation from Canopy is for a film that I had never heard about before. It's Italian. It does have subtitles, but as I always say, well worth the extra effort of subtitles. It's a movie called Like Crazy. I'm trying to think, the best way I would describe it is Thelma and Louise in the Italian countryside if Thelma and Louise were trying to escape from a mental institution. There we go, back of the box. You've got two characters who are both struggling with some mental health issues, but they've set it up in this film so that it's fairly light and fluffy at the same time. Beatrice, she's sort of super chatty, very talkative. She's totally caught up in a world of fantasy, uh, but she believes certain things about herself that are absolutely not true, which causes a ton of issues. And then you've got her counterpart, Donatella, who is kind of the exact opposite. Rather than being super talky and out there, she's very introverted. She is quiet, she's fragile, she sort of steeps herself in mystery. So you've got two sides of a rather similar coin, you discover. And while they're both admitted to this sort of progressive, state-of-the-art psychiatric facility, they kind of start to bond. And they end up breaking out of the institution and having some pretty wild adventures. And like I said, there's a very Thelma and Louise-ness to this, though lacking some of the super duper heavy elements in Thelma and Louise. I really, really enjoyed this one. It was the film that I watched directly after Tucked, so it was light enough that I got caught up in the storyline. It didn't make me like sob or anything. And it's, while it does have like a warmth to it that I think is really great, it doesn't have the like enrapturing depth that Tucked had, for me anyway. So it was one of those that I could watch, enjoy, and then put aside. So if you're looking for something a little bit off the beaten path, but that's still light, still fluffy, has a great storyline, will be absolutely enjoyable while you're watching it, and has a really great relationship about two women who are opposite but the same at the same time, check out Like Crazy. It's a lot of fun, and I think you'll probably enjoy it. Now, my very last recommendation is for the film The Soloist, and it probably has like the most mainstream appeal, if only because of its 2 stars. You've got two characters, one played by Robert Downey Jr. and the other played by Jamie Foxx, in this true life picture. This is about a journalist who, while in the hospital, overhears beautiful music being played, only to discover that it's being played by a homeless man outside of the hospital. They sort of form this sort of unconventional and certainly unequal at the beginning relationship, and it just sort of snowballs from there. I do have qualms with this film, and coming from like a place of privilege, and there are just some elements to it that make me kind of side eye the storyline, but the acting is excellent, and it's definitely an affecting story. Anytime you throw music into the mix, for me, I definitely am more drawn to a storyline. And I'm also like so intrigued by the fact that these are real people, and that it really, at least to some degree, happened the way that the movie depicts. Um, Robert Downey plays the journalist who discovers this homeless musical artist, who we discover had at one point attended Juilliard. And sort of the overarching question is, how do you get from one place to the next? And it's actually a really common theme in real life. So I actually am very much drawn to that particular storyline. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to watch this movie and then to read the articles the journalist wrote when it was actually happening. He wrote an entire book about the situation as well. So um, I really enjoyed that element, that you can really kind of track reality with sort of embellished, rosy fiction colored glasses. Um, but yeah, please check this one out. It actually ended up being a very lovely little film with some nice performances from Downey Jr. and from Fox, and really beautiful music. I mean, really, really beautiful music. So if you're looking for something dramatic about a relationship between two people who you would think would have nothing to do with each other on a normal basis, uh, check out The Soloist. The other thing that I really like about it is that it plays with who is really benefiting the most from the friendship. And I do think the movie does a pretty good job of sort of trying to find the balance between the two of them. Who gains the most, who helps the most. And I think the movie really tries to keep that equal. So yeah, check out The Soloist, also available on Canopy. Now, with that, that's my very last recommendation for this week. If you have any recommendations for films about friendship that you would like to share, please, please, please place a comment below. If you have any recommendations for themes, I would love to hear those as well. I'm always looking for new themes for the future. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.